Hello and welcome to Chat with the Chairman. I'm Pam Hepburn, CFMA's 2021-22 Chairman. In today's episode, I'll be visiting with Brittany Diederich. Brittany is the Director of Finance and Administration at Industrial Builders Incorporated. Hi, Brittany. Thanks for coming and talking with me this morning.
Absolutely, Pam. Nice to be on. So
Yeah.
honored to be on this series, and at the beginning of your tenure. So that's cool.
Thank you. We haven't ever had the pleasure of meeting in person, so I'm really excited to get to know you and hear about how you got in the construction industry. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work at Industrial Builders Inc., which is in West Fargo, North Dakota, and it's a family business that was started by my grandparents. Technically, it was started by my grandma, which I think is pretty cool because my grandpa had some financial shenanigans or whatever, so he was not allowed to start a business in the state of North Dakota for a minute. He had started another company and that went bankrupt, and they had kind of a waiting period, and so they had liquidated their assets. He still wanted to be involved in construction, and my grandma was like, she was absolutely brilliant and just an ace at business, and she was like, okay, well, I'm going to be involved in this endeavor. So she actually founded Industrial Builders and was the majority shareholder. She was, it was a woman-owned business, and she was a majority shareholder for the first 8 years until she finally let Warren buy some stock from her. So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. We kind of discovered that here in the past couple of years, or I discovered it. I think that era, probably that wasn't a publicized fact, but I think it's just so cool and says a lot about my grandma. But yeah, so it's a family business and always has been. My dad got involved he says from the moment he was born, and I probably echo that same thing. He's running the ship right now. And basically from the time I was a tiny child, I remember him reading me books where other people were reading like Goodnight Moon or whatever, and my dad had a picture book that was about the process of making how lime turned into a bridge. So the process of turning lime into clinker, and the clinker becoming cement, and the cement being an addition to concrete, and then concrete eventually becoming a bridge. And so I think I was like 6. I was maybe 5. So I think it's kind of funny that was, one, that there is a book like that exists, and 2, that it stuck in my head. So for my entire life, I probably have never called concrete cement, which is a common misconception where you say that bridge is made out of cement. From a very early age, that was I had the right order of operations there. So
that is such a cool story. I'm thinking as you're talking about it, my little newest granddaughter Amelia, and I'm wondering what's the title of that book, and maybe I'll get it for her.
I'll have to see. I'm pretty sure it's still in my parents' downstairs bathroom, which is a weird place for it to be. It's like in their guest bathroom, so if people come, I don't know if they're taking some time in the bathroom or whatever, they can also learn about the process.
That's funny.
So I'll take a peek. I'll send it to you if I can find it.
I'd love that.
It's very informative, and the process is the same. So
it's been a family business. Was there ever a time growing up where you didn't want to be in the family business?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was quietly hands-off about it. I mean, obviously, he was trying to make sure I had an interest in the industry. But as I went through school, I kind of was pursuing other hobbies, got involved with DECA in high school, which is like a business club, and I found that I really, really enjoy business. And so once it came time to look for colleges, and I was like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a pastry chef, and my dad was just kind of like not really saying anything. But every time we'd go, because he was the president of AGC, so I got to tag along on all these trips, kind of, for sessions throughout the country. And so when we'd go places, I'd get to tour different colleges, and he would always ask, what is their construction management program? So that was always just kind of in the back. But I specifically picked the University of Denver because it was not in Fargo. I was worried that if I stayed in Fargo, that I would basically just be drawn into the gravity of the business. And I was like, this is my chance to make something of myself. So I went to the University of Denver, which doesn't even have a construction management program, which my dad was like quietly disappointed about. And then yeah, the thing that makes me well, not that makes me different. I'm married to my wife, and we had been dating secretly while after high school, and then my first semester at University of Denver, and long distance was hard, and it seemed like it was going to work out, which it did. We've been married now for 5 years. So I made the decision to transfer to NDSU, which does have North Dakota State University, which does have a construction management program. And then I was working, and my dad was just like, because I was a server, and so I was making like $8 an hour, and he's like, I can pay you $10 an hour if you do computer stuff at IBI. And so he got me, and I think he knew I would like it, and then it just
He got you.
yeah. So I started I started in the field when I was right out of high school. I was not really in the field. I was in the field for a minute, but I worked in our yard, and then I was on a rotomill crew, and that was really cool because I remember going down because I was working like 80 hours a week. So at Davis-Bacon rates from a rotomill groundsman, which is a labor group 2, which was far more than $10 an hour. It was like $22 an hour, and half of it was, time and a half. And so I had so much cash that I had no idea what to do with as a, 18-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dabbled in the field for one summer, which technically counts. It's not very much. And then after he got me in the office, I kind of stuck there because I've always loved business and numbers and all of that. So started working on the accounting system. I was studying for CM, construction management. And then I started managing projects, and then things kind of dabbled back and forth, and then I grew into the role that I'm in now.
So you've done a little bit of everything at your company.
Yeah, that's kind of Paul's whole motto. He always wanted me to be an owner, but he wasn't ever going to give it to me. He wanted to make sure that the business was in good hands before there was any sort of transfer. And so he's always of the mind that you should be able to do anything in the business, which I agree with. I think it gets a little bit into the weeds sometimes, but he's like, you need to know how to pinch hit in any aspect of the business. You need to know how to run the books. You need to know how to run a job. You need to know how to read plans and take off a job and all of this stuff. And I do know how to do all of that, which is really cool. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because the first time that I met you, Pam, virtually, we had talked about, how there's kind of like a hero status in our industry where everyone wants to be like the person that saves the day in their job. They're like, I'm going to be the one to solve this problem. And I think that sometimes that almost, cuts people off at the legs, where you're not growing your team if you're like, I'm going to handle every single problem that comes up. So I think it's important to understand everything about the business, but I think it's also important to like leave it to your team to see if they can rise to the occasion, because then you're going to have, if you get hit by a bus, people can step up because they know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. So you mentioned that you're an owner now.
Yes. Yeah. That happened
business?
last August. And so that was super exciting. Navigated through the pandemic pretty successfully, or as successfully as we could. And I think that maybe was like the final straw to my dad, where he was like, all right, we can do this. And I kind of pushed him a little bit. I've been working here since 2011. So I was like 9 years in, and I'm like, you said that there's going to be an ownership thing. Like, can I buy some stock from you? And so my cousin and I are business partners, where he bought the same amount of stock from his dad, who's our executive vice president. I bought that amount of stock. So both Eric and I are now 15% owners of Industrial Builders, which is super exciting. So we're kind of like really we put our money where our mouths are in terms of becoming part of the next generation of the company.
That's exciting.
Yeah, super cool. So
how did you get involved with CFMA?
So in my saga of working in accounting for a minute, and still, but I had this amazing boss who was a great mentor to me. Her name is Patty. She now works for Viewpoint, and when she left the company to go work for Viewpoint, because she was so good at Viewpoint that I don't know if they recruited her or what, but she went there. And so we were kind of in a turmoil position after trying to replace Patty, because she was awesome. And we've obviously stabilized now, but there was this moment where my dad, basically in the family business thing, he was like, this is a problem and I don't know who to trust, and I'm going to trust you because you're my daughter. Fix it. And so that's when I invented my title Director of Finance and Administration, and just basically did whatever I could to stabilize it. And I kept thinking, what would Patty do? What would Patty do? And so, we're still in touch, and pretty shortly, I think I might have still been an assistant project manager at the time, but she and I had been talking, and she knew what was going on, and she's like, what would be a great resource to you is the CFMA chapter locally. And like, she name dropped a couple of other controllers, and she's like, you should call up this guy, this guy, and this guy. They'll help you out with any weird viewpoint problems. Call this person, they understand this stuff. And so she was like, this CFMA network is basically a short list of people that you can learn from and trust while you're trying to figure out what to do here. And so she highly, highly recommended it, and I pretty much trust her guidance on pretty much anything accounting related. So I just joined, and then the proof was in the pudding. And especially last year with the pandemic, I mean, the resources that I got from the CFMA were really helpful with, all of the different government programs that were going on. It was really hard to keep up with the thousands of pages of legislation. So it was nice to have people in the same boat that were kind of pointing and being like, it's a lot to dig through, but I started here and that helped. And so you kind of follow their lead and learn and all that stuff. So it was definitely really good advice. I'd recommend it to anybody.
That is definitely a testament to the value of CFMA and just the peer network. It's fun that Patty helped you build that network of peers.
Absolutely.
Pointing
they're
different
all
people
great
out.
people. Yeah. So it's cool. And it's just really interesting because I'm involved in a couple of different like organizations, like the AGC, which is more on there's a lot of owners and stuff in that network. CFMA is so financial oriented. And then we started this Construction Leadership Council, which is kind of next gen leaders. And it's interesting because you see these trends of people and kind of the values that they have and the way that they think, and you see why they're in the positions that they're in, which is really interesting. Because like, you can tell a construction accountant, I think. If you talk to someone for a second, you can figure it out pretty quick that they're in our industry and the way they troubleshoot. So
that is interesting. Well, it sounds like CFMA has helped you quite a bit, but you're helping CFMA as an organization too in your work with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that committee is doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found out about the Diversity and Inclusion Committee last year. Bruce Orr, I'm decently active on LinkedIn, and Bruce Orr had posted this article on his page, and I don't know how it showed up on mine, but it really resonated with me, and I decided to go out on a limb and comment. And then I name dropped that I'm gay, and I was like, because it was about being in the construction industry and basically how people they like you, but they almost chip away at your identity in kind of a backhanded way, and how you can work with people who are really good people, and they don't realize that they're doing something that might offend, like not just offend you, but you're basically compromising your identity every time you're like, yeah, because like in his article, I think he said like, because Bruce is Black, and they were like, yeah, you're one of the good ones, which is like a compliment, but it's not. And so, I mean, I've had great experiences at IBI, partly because I'm the owner's daughter, and if you were to give me crap about being gay, that'd probably be a pretty poor career move. Just if anyone's going to hold you to the carpet, which is kind of screwed up, but if you're going to be wrong about it, that's really not the wrong person to do that to, because your job might be on the line. But anyway, so Bruce posted that article. I commented and was like, it's really refreshing to see that leaders in our industry are coming together and they're being vocal and vulnerable, and I appreciate that as a gay woman in the construction industry. And and he emailed me or messaged me on LinkedIn and told me about the committee and said, we're looking for someone from the gay community, basically, to make sure that our perspective was heard. And I was like, sure. I mean, I'm not an ace by any means of, I'm probably not the greatest resource, but I'm happy to represent, one slice of what it is to be in our community. And so got involved in that, and it's been a really rewarding experience. It went from a task force to a committee now, and that committee is under Bruce's leadership, which was a great decision by CFMA. I think he maybe he was voluntold, or I don't quite know how he became chair, but he is
Usually how it works. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you would know. So he's got an absolutely great vision for what what the industry maybe needs as a stepping point, because we do have a lot of work to do. And then our committee is just full of really wonderful people who have their own ideas and their own input. Like me being a heavy highway contractor, we were talking, one of Bruce's big initiatives with the D&I committee is to support minority and women-owned businesses. And so we were having a call, and I was like, there's all of these, and they knew it, but I've administered our disadvantaged business program for industrial builders in the state of North Dakota and South Dakota and Minnesota, all the states we work in. And so I was like, I kind of tied it to the fact that there's, it's a very complicated program to get into, but we as the CFMA could provide resources so it's not so cumbersome to get in, because the opportunities are there. And so that's just like an example of the fact that we're connecting and we're talking about what we want, and then realizing the opportunities that maybe wouldn't be visible, because Bruce is a software consultant, so he owns a company. He's not a consultant, but I think he does consult. I don't know how to. He's a good person. That's what I know most of all. Yeah, he might not know about how the disadvantaged business programs within each state are run by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission or the Civil Rights Division within each state. I know for my stuff, so it's just like providing more context to get work done.
That's awesome. Cool. I know the committee has put together a panel. Is that right, for our upcoming hybrid conference? I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see that. That's going to be really, really
yes,
good.
And I'm on that panel, so we'll see.
Are you?
I am. It's all about. It's at the CFMA conference here in July, and they were looking for a mid-sized contractor, which IBI is. And I was like, I obviously care about diversity and inclusion. I'm working on it now within our organization. So I could be your litmus test for, kind of a company that is in the infancy of D&I. I'm not an expert on D&I by any means, but I care about it and I want it to be a thing here. So that's kind of I'm on the panel surrounded by a bunch of people who do really great things in our industry for D&I. And then I'm just there being like, this is your starting point. So if you have good intentions and whatever, I guess this is how you can start. So.
Well, I think it's commendable. You mentioned that you have a certain amount of protection and safety because you're an owner in the business.
Yeah.
And so you have the ability to make it a safe place for people to be themselves.
Right.
And
the buck can actually stop with me, which is kind of, my friend Molly is a business owner. She just became 100% business owner of an equipment dealership here in North Dakota, and she's gay. And, we've talked about it a lot, where you feel kind of guilty because you just haven't had it as hard as some people have, because you have this, this veil of nepotism protecting you. But, also, just because someone else has had it worse doesn't, minimize your experience, and also it doesn't prevent you from doing good work to help other people not have a bad experience.
Right. So, to take that and use it to make it a safe place for other people is
exactly.
Is
so
commendable.
We just have a leg up where we can, the buck can stop with us, and we can really lead intentionally in that way. And use the privilege that we have to make change happen a lot faster. So that, we've been best friends for several years now, and that has been something that's happened over our journey, where we've gone from feeling guilty because we have so much privilege with it to being like, let's use that and let's just call it a catalyst and make stuff happen so much faster, and make sure that, like, at least within our organization, that everyone's going to be safe.
That's fantastic, Brittany.
Yeah, I love it. It's really cool, and I'm proud of Molly and all the stuff she's doing. I'm proud of all my friends, and it's cool because Molly is a great leader, and having someone who's a friend and who's like me she's really involved in the AGC and showing up to events where we can hang out and be together. You just feel more comfortable and confident, and you're comfortable to make changes in the industry faster if you know you're not the only person standing up in the room that's like you. So it's like one of those things where, it's cheesy, but representation matters, visibility matters. And if someone sees us, even, take our privilege aside, the fact that we're family and we're not, we're owners, just the fact that we are who we are, hopefully someone who is not an owner will feel comfortable being themselves in, in the organizations that we're a part of. So.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your stories and getting to know, us getting to know each other, but also letting the CFMA world get to know you too.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Thanks for
Hopefully
everything
people find it somewhat entertaining or useful. I don't know.
I'm sure they will. So we like to kind of wrap up these sessions by asking the viewers one question. And the question today is, would you be able to work with your parents on a daily basis? So just put it in the comments below. Start a little conversation there around family businesses.
Absolutely.
So Brittany, thank you. And I hope all of our viewers will join us next episode next month, where I'll be visiting with Pam Hummel. Pam is the Executive Vice President of Market and Industry for BRIC.